In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to assert your authority without needing to yell at your child or intimidate them. And all of the techniques I'm going to share with you are completely compatible with modern parenting approaches like positive discipline, gentle parenting, and respectful parenting, and will allow you to get even your strong-willed child to comply and obey to the instructions that you're giving them without damaging your relationship with them. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Soraya, I'm a mother of two, and here on this channel I talk about motherhood, about children empowerment, and about social-emotional learning. So if these are topics you're interested in, I would love for you to subscribe. Please make sure you also hit the notification bell so that you're made aware when I post new videos. Recently, I've made a video about how to get young children to cooperate and to listen to you without yelling. And today I'm going to talk more specifically about how to assert your authority and get your children to comply with the limits and boundaries that you're setting for them without needing to yell at them. And I do believe that it's very important to make sure that you assert your authority and that you teach your children to comply with the rules, because they will definitely need this, not only in your home, not only to stay safe, but also they will need to know how to comply with rules and regulations when they go outside, when they go to school, when they go out in the community. We all live under a certain set of rules which allow us to live peacefully all together, and it's important for your children to learn to respect those rules. But you also want to make sure that you don't damage your relationship with your children. And I personally strongly believe in the positive discipline approach and in the respectful parenting approach, where I want to treat my child with respect and I want to assert my authority, but not in a way that will instill fear in my child or that will make them resent me and feel like I'm humiliating them or I'm not respecting them. So the techniques I'm going to share with you are very effective techniques, and they will work even with strong-willed children. And I will speak more specifically about strong-willed children and what you need to do to make sure that they comply to your rules towards the end of the video. So make sure you watched until the end. The first step is to make sure that you give instructions that are clear, short, and to the point. The reason is that oftentimes as parents, we tend to give our children too much information and explanations, and so our instructions kind of get lost in the clutter of words that are all around them. And our children, especially very young children, don't know what to focus on, don't know what the takeaway is from all of this information that you've just given them. So if you say something like, "Hey honey, can you wear your jacket because we're about to head outside and it's a bit chilly now, so I really don't want you to catch a cold," your child doesn't know what's important and your child doesn't know what you're expecting from them because you've given them too much information. Instead, what you really want to say is something like, "Put your jacket on now, please." Another example is if you tell your child, "Oh, hey honey, stop running down the stairs because I'm so worried you're gonna fall and then hurt yourself and I really don't want you to get hurt, so can you stop now, please?" Again, too much information, too many words, your child doesn't know what's important. And especially if it's a situation like running down the stairs or jumping on the bed or whatever, a situation that might be a little bit dangerous, you really don't want your instructions to get lost in too many explanations. You want to make sure that you are clear and to the point. "Stop running down the stairs now, please." So very clear, very short. The other thing that you need to make sure is that you don't give more than one instruction at a time. So something that we will often do as parents is, because we know all of the different steps, we will give them all at once. So we'll say something like, "Hey, go get your socks, wear your shoes, and then put your jacket on because we're gonna go outside." Too many different steps, too many different instructions at once. They get confused. Oftentimes they'll go get their socks and then just wait there because they don't know what to do next. And that's because you've given them too many instructions at once. A very young child can only really focus on one thing at a time. So you need to give the instructions step by step and let them get on and comply with what you're asking them to do before you move on to the next step, because they're not, they don't have the abilities yet to remember all of the steps and to focus on every single step. So your child needs to know exactly what you expect them to do and when you expect them to do it. And that's because if you don't tell them when, then it's completely open to interpretation, right? It's very general, it's very vague. If you say, Put your jacket on. Yeah, I'll do it later. If you say, tidy up your Legos, please. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, but when? They can do it in an hour, they can do it in 3 hours, they can do it at the end of the day, they can do it tomorrow, right? So you need to make sure that you tell them when they need to comply. Put your jacket on now, please. Tidy up your Legos before we go out, please. Give them very precise instructions. If it's too vague, you're gonna struggle with implementation. You may also have noticed that none of these instructions are questions. I am not asking my child to do something, I am telling my child to do something. I'm not saying, can you get into the bathtub, please? I am not saying, we're gonna put our shoes on now, okay? Because I am telling them what they have to do, and I am telling them that they have to do it now. If I ask a question, then it's open to discussion. If I ask a question, I open the door to them saying no. Okay? No, not okay. I don't want to wear my shoes now. Can you get into the bathtub? No, I can't. I don't want to. So you need to make sure that you're telling them. And remember that you're still asking them very politely and respectfully. You're not bossing them around, you're telling them please, and you're being gentle, but you're also being firm. With my toddler, I am firm, but also throughout the day, I give them many opportunities to choose things. I give her many choices. For example, I'll tell her, do you want to wear a dress today or do you want to wear leggings? Do you want to play Legos now or do you want to play puzzle? Do you want to read a book or do you want to go and bake a cake? So I give her many opportunities during the day to make choices, to feel like she's in control of what's happening to her. I also try to say yes to her requests a lot of time. This is something that I spoke about in my last video. I try and make sure that sometimes I say yes to what she wants to do so that she doesn't feel like she lives in a world of constraint. So like I said, I'm not bossing her around. There's many things that she gets to choose. And also when I'm telling her to do something, I always do it very respectfully. So I will always be very polite and say please and thank you. But I am firm, I assert my authority, and I teach my daughter that there are very clear rules in my homes and that there are limits that she needs to respect. Now, if you have a compliant child, these steps will probably be enough. As long as you are clear, concise, and you tell them when they need to do what you're asking them to do, this should be sufficient, and their desire to please you will make them comply very quickly and you won't have any struggles. But if you have a strong-willed child, you may need to work a little bit harder. And by that I mean you may need to show them with your actions that they need to comply and that there will be consequences if they don't. Consequences need to always be proportionate to the situation, proportionate to your child's age, and if possible, related to the action that they are doing. For example, stop throwing your Legos now, please, or I will take them away. Eat your vegetables now, please, or you won't get any dessert. And what is important with consequences is that you need to be consistent and you need to follow through every single time. It's very important that you follow through, because with young children, action matters as much as words. So if you say, stop throwing your Legos now, please, or I will take them away, but then you don't proceed to taking them away, the child continues throwing the Legos and you just keep talking without taking the Legos away, you just keep threatening but you never follow through, then your child learns that your words have no value. Your child learns that you are not going to follow through and that there are not going to be any consequences to their actions and that they can do whatever they want. So you need to follow through and do what you said you would do. And you need to do it every single time. There needs to be consistency, because if it is inconsistent, you're just going to confuse your child and you're going to just, bring more problems, because then your child is going to continuously test your limits because they will have learned that sometimes mommy follows through, but sometimes she doesn't, so I'll try it this time. So you need to make sure that this happens every single time. Consistency is hard when you're a parent. I think that probably consistency is one of the hardest things in parenting, because sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're stressed, Sometimes, you just don't want to put up with a fight. Sometimes you don't want to put up with a tantrum. Sometimes you're too exhausted because you know if you're going to take these Legos away, your child is going to cry and you just don't have the energy for that. I am telling you, it is saving you so much trouble later on if you are able to be consistent and always follow through. And the thing with strong-willed children is that they will test your limits and they will test whether you will follow through or not many times before they finally accept the rule as a rule and not as something that is optional. So if your child is very young, or if you have been a very permissive parent so far, it will take some time before your strong-willed child learns to accept that you will follow through every single time, that your words have meaning, and that they need to comply with your rules. They need to accumulate a lot of hard data. They need to see consequences to their actions many times before they finally submit, resign, and accept that the rules are the rules and that they need to comply. So if you have a strong-willed child, don't feel discouraged if you had a small win, if it worked one time and then the following time again they defy your authority and again they push your limits and again they don't comply. It's completely normal. Children learn through repetition, so you're gonna have to earn that compliance. You're gonna have to follow through consistently for some period of time until they finally learn that the rules are the rules and that they have to listen to you. Now, I really want to insist that it's important that the consequences are proportionate to your child's age, and to the situation as well. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to punish them for weeks and months or take away the toys for weeks. There's no point. If you take the toy away for a couple of hours or for the rest of the day, that's usually enough for your child to get the point, and they will probably test your limits again, but then you will warn them about the consequences if they don't comply, and then if they don't, you will follow through and you will take the toy away again, and then slowly they will learn by repetition. But don't do these extremely harsh, very long punishments, because there's really no point. There's really no learning when it's completely disproportionate. If there is no consequences that is directly related to the situation, for example, if your child is hitting their sibling, there's not really a consequence that's directly related to that, then you can use timeout. And generally the rule with timeout is that they are in timeout for the same amount of minutes as their age. So if they're 3 years old, they're in timeout for 3 minutes. If they're 5 years old, they're in timeout for 5 minutes. One thing that I do want to say about timeout is that you don't want to use a place that is normally associated with rest or with peacefulness with timeout. So don't use their bed as timeout place, and don't use their self-regulation corner as a place for timeout. Don't confuse self-regulation with punishment, okay? And you don't want this to be confused in your child's mind either. So if you have a self-regulation corner in your house, this is really a space for your child to cool down and to learn to regulate their own emotions and to be able to talk about how they feel and express how they feel and find a way to manage their own emotions. It's not a place for them to be punished and to be in timeout. Same thing for their bed. You don't want bedtime to be a punishment in your child's head. So don't use their bed as a place for timeout. Usually a good place for timeout would be, sitting in a corner of the room. You might have a chair for timeout, or you might get them to sit next to you. It doesn't matter as long as it's not a place that should be associated with something very different like resting or like self-regulating. If you give clear, concise instructions to your child, to the point, and you tell them very clearly when you expect them to do what you're asking them to do, and if you always follow through with consequences and are very consistent with your rules, you will see progress. Even with a very strong-willed child, you have to keep working on it. You have to continue being consistent, following through, and applying consequences, and you will see that your child will become more obedient, that you will be able to assert your authority while at the same time being the parent that you want to be. You don't want to be a shouty parent. You don't want to be a parent who humiliates their child and who calls them names. At the end of the day, you want your home to be a place of peace and you want your children to grow into healthy, balanced adults. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have found this content helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and I will see you in my next video.